Well, we come down to last but not least, certainly, and it's kind of interesting because if we had gone alphabetically, Nat Bates would have been #1. But we do a random number generator, and Nat is last.
Hello, everyone.
Maybe we have the best for last. I don't know.
Yeah, thank you. You done a great job. We've been together for like we almost married. It's so nice to see so many of you. Gee, you're looking better and better every day. Well, I hit the first question in terms of what's the biggest problem in Richmond? Budget. Running a city of $116 million is no different than your household. It's a little bit more complex and a lot bigger, of course, but you've got to get the revenue to pay for your expenses. Simple as that. And you can't spend money that you don't have. And you can't borrow money to balance your budget. That's the #1 problem that we have. Money, revenue, whatever you want to call it. The second is the police department. We had 212 officers at one time allocated. The majority of this council dropped that to 178. Of the 178, 20 positions are unfilled for various reasons. Nobody didn't want to be a cop anymore. Another 20 officers are out on disability or stress. So we have about 138 officers, of which about 10 of those are probably management, and we're operating with about 120 officers on the street. Totally unacceptable. These guys are working so hard, and it's mandatory overtime. If someone is sick and a person just got through doing an 8-hour shift, you're mandatory. You got to work. Now, what does that do to an officer over a period of time? They're stressed out and then wind up they getting injured. How do we resolve the problem? Revenue. This city is not a friendly city to businesses. I can count many times whereby individuals have come to me and we've tried to work through the maze, and some of them have been successful and some of them have not been successful, because this city hall is not friendly to the business community. And I'll tell you one thing, if you don't have good police protection, you're not going to attract anyone to come into this city. In fact, you're going to start losing people. But let's get back to another issue in terms of, I hear candidates saying what they're going to do. Let me tell you what I've done. And there's a difference between what you're going to do and what you've done. Some of you live in these beautiful homes. Some of you got these panoramic views of San Francisco. Let me tell you, every housing development in the city of Richmond, I voted for. Everyone, from the Point Richmond, all the way to Hilltop, to the El Sobrante Valley, and of course here in Marina Bay. Every development I voted for. And now you live in a beautiful home. It didn't happen just by coincidence. We were accused of being in the pockets of the developers. But we saw a need for upscale housing to bring a lot of solid people into this community. And that's what we did. Marina Bay was a lot of problems. Well, first of all, you're sitting on a mud flat. High tide's going to wipe the property away. Well, we have the shipyards here in the vicinity. Well, there's chemicals out there. All kind of excuses came forward to prevent us from going forward and developing this Marina Bay. And thanks to Robert Poe and your good friend Richard Poe, some of you are a little bit upset with him now. Pooty, Mike Giametti, and the Signature Homes and other developers, they came in and we voted for this development. And now you live in one of the pride places in the city of Richmond. Now, how soon we forget? There's so much that I could talk about in terms of my involvement, the Hilltop Shopping Center, the Costco. All of these are revenue generators. Pacific East Mall. These are businesses that have come into this city, not my doing, but with my assistance and my involvement. And you need to understand, and I think most of you do, no one person does anything in this city. As much as I've been involved in the Knox Freeway, going back to Washington, as much as I've been involved in the Moody, fortunately and unfortunately, we had that incident, tragic, and we were able to go to Sacramento and to Washington to bring in over $20 million to put in that underpass. None of these candidates were there, but I was there. I went back to Washington on your behalf and secured funding for the project. And now you don't have to worry about the trains and you stopping you and where you can't get to and from. Those are things that are very important. Lastly, as an elected official, I've learned again that you cannot do things by yourself. I worked with John Knox to get the freeway. I had a close relationship with Jimmy Carter. In fact, he's the one that provided the funds under his administration for the freeway. I worked with J.W. Bush. We call him Old Man Bush. I even worked with, Clinton. And of course, my favorite I worked with Obama. And with Dianne Feinstein, who's been a personal friend of mine for 40 years. George Miller, Senator Boxer. Even Pete Wilson, who was a Republican. But we worked together. You cannot do things by yourself. If you don't have friends in Washington and Sacramento, with Jerry Brown, now he's on his way out, but with Newsom, who's a good friend of mine, you are not going to get the money that we send to Sacramento and to Washington. Even with our president up there, as he is today, we've got to have collaborative working relationships. And that is what my profile has been. The 40 years I've been your city council member, twice as your mayor, numerous times as your vice mayor, and the rest is your city council. Lucky number 13.